Today I'm here at Eagle Canyon Raceway near Dallas, Texas with Toyota Gazoo Racing to answer one question. Which is the best GR car if you're new to performance driving? Huge thank you to Toyota for hosting this event. So we got 3 GR cars to consider. We've got the GR86, which is the entry level. We have the GR Corolla with 300 horsepower, all-wheel drive in the middle. And then we have the Toyota Supra with 382 horsepower at the top. Which one is going to be the best car for a driver who hasn't done a lot of track work? And which one's going to be the most rewarding? Let's get into some cars and find out. We're in the GR Corolla, all-wheel drive, automatic transmission. We got this puppy in track mode. And here are my thoughts on this car. I've been driving it for a little while. And this is the car that is the easiest to get used to on track. Because you've got the all-wheel drive, it is very safe. And you've got these electromechanical systems which are really helping you get the car around the corners, and it's going to be the car that bites you the least. Now, it's a front-wheel drive biased car, and so all these mechanical systems are kind of working together to reduce that front-wheel drive bias. But in terms of driving this thing quickly, it's the easiest because, well, look at the automatic transmission for one thing. The brakes are excellent in this, and it's a car that doesn't want to do anything too surprising too quickly. It's the least ready to change direction, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can make mistakes in this car, and it's going to essentially fix them for you or help you reduce your mistakes. Now, it does have a pretty good amount of power, so that's kind of nice. And you can have fun with it. I got a little bit loose there by getting off the throttle and rotating a little bit through that corner. The steering is very good in here too. It is very, very good, and the brakes are super confidence inspiring. So if you're a beginner to the track, if you haven't been doing this kind of thing before, this is the car that I think is the easiest to get into. And there's a lot of rewards here too. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's an unrewarding car, but it is the least organic, I guess you could say. It definitely feels like the car is doing some of the work for me. In fact, it is doing a lot of the work for me, but it also is a very capable vehicle as well. Now the default mode is kind of understeery here, as I'm finding out. But it's such a nice car. They've done such a good job with it. And as Karl, and as I was talking to my friend earlier, it's really nice that we have 3 different cars with 3 very different characters from one manufacturer, GR. I think that is such a great thing to have this opportunity to have 3 cars with such different personalities that you can drive and experience different types of driving. So, let's go and drive the next car. So, Karl Brauer, famous journalist, race car driver par excellence. Actually, you've got a lot of experience. You've been doing journalism for 20-something years?
More like 30 now, but
30.
anyways.
So I think he's qualified. So the question we're trying to answer today is, which of these GR cars is the best one if you are a new driver to going to the track, high performance driving? So we're going to try to answer that in this lap, but what are your thoughts so far driving the Corolla, the Supra, and the GR86?
I'm thrilled with how much of a spectrum Toyota has created for performance car enthusiasts, and you can kind of get anything from a very affordable and like almost really innocuous GR Corolla that is really not going to hurt you no matter what you do in it. I mean, I suppose you can crash any car, but I just don't know how someone would have to be ham-fisted enough to hurt themselves or that car. And yet, it's not boring, it's not dull, it's not unexciting to drive, but it's super manageable for almost anybody. It'd be a great car to learn, to become, to start your career as becoming a enthusiast driver and a track person. And then in the opposite extreme, you've got the Supra, which is far heavier. It's only rear-wheel drive. It's far more powerful. It'll absolutely rotate on you. It'll reward you if you know what you're doing, and it'll punish you if you don't. So you've got those 2 kind of extremes, and in between, the car we're sitting in now, the GR86, which you can have fun with, but you have to work hard to hurt yourself with. If you'd asked me a couple of years ago what kind of Toyota performance, what level of performance spectrum Toyota would be offering to its customers, I would never have said, oh, they'll have like 3 cars and they'll cover all the bases from like, 40,000 to like double that, and whatever you want to spend, you can get whatever you want. I would have never thought Toyota would have been doing that just a few years ago. So it's pretty fabulous.
Yeah, and so in 2012 they came out with the first generation of this, the 86, the FRS, whatever you want to call it. And now we're in the new one here, and I think this is the one that kind of strikes the balance between what we've been talking about, between the Supra, which is kind of a lot of car, and this little 86 here, which is just a little tossable, fun toy. I'm going to call it a toy because it's so lightweight and it's so responsive, and it sort of does everything that you want in equal measure. I feel like it's a very balanced car to drive, and there's a lot of reward in this car too, because the limits are not too high.
No, and balance is really the word, I mean, if you're looking for Goldilocks, this is the one that's just right. If you want to have fun and not spend too much money and not risk, hurting yourself, but you don't want to be so you don't want to be so protected from yourself that you maybe get bored too easily and all. And again, the GR Corolla is a really fun car.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reward here over time, like, because you can kind of grow with this car. I think perhaps more than the Corolla, because the Corolla really, it's a great car, but it sort of protects you with a lot of electronics, and the all-wheel drive makes it much safer to drive that car. And this has got, you can keep modifying this car endlessly to sort of bring up the level of performance to meet your skill level, and that's what I like about it.
Well, and Eric, you and I were talking about this earlier on the drive here, and it's like the fastest car and the most rewarding car to drive are not always the same thing. In fact, very commonly they aren't the same thing.
Exactly.
This car is going to get beat by a Supra around a track, but are you going to have as much fun? Are you going to smile for as high a percentage of the track in the Supra versus this car?
Right.
I doubt it.
And look at how much fun I'm having going slow in this 228 horsepower car. Kind of sliding around a little bit. It's very controllable.
Right.
It responds to the inputs, and people say it understeers, but if you just use a little bit of weight transfer, a little bit of weight balance theory, it's very responsive. You can get it to do what you want. It wasn't really understeering for me there. And I think it is the Goldilocks zone car, and it's also the best priced too.
Right.
Out of all the three.
Yeah, it's really got a lot going for it. And I almost feel like the market doesn't recognize it, doesn't appreciate it. I think the GR Corolla is such a big deal because it's a performance-oriented Corolla, which is still an enigma, it feels like, almost after how many decades that car's been around. And everyone knows Supra. I don't think, honestly, I think maybe the worst part about this car is its name. 86 isn't the most exciting name for a car. I wish it had something
Can we go for another lap?
I wish it had something more interesting to call it.
Can we go for another lap?
I can give you one more, and then I wasn't aware I had a bunch of people waiting for this. When I let you guys in,
yeah.
Then I'll get you back in it after.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, one more is good. Thank you.
Yeah, we can just continue the conversation because I feel like there's, more to talk about. So yeah, I agree. The GR Corolla is the most benign, I guess you could say, but it's still a lot of fun.
Right.
But it is ultimately a front-wheel drive biased kind of vehicle. So what they're doing with that car, with all the electromechanical systems, is a lot to sort of remove that inherent Econobox roots that it came from. I don't think they actually intended to make that, the GR car that it ultimately became.
Right.
So the car does a lot for you, and it's also the slowest to change direction. It's sort of the least responsive of all of them.
Yes. Yeah,
I kind of missed that, little late turn in there, but that's okay. You can fix it in this car.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. If you get to a certain level of skill and capability on the driver's side, the reward of turning a car with the throttle instead of the steering wheel starts to become such an enjoyable pastime. And it's very hard to turn the GR Corolla with the throttle,
Absolutely.
You have to turn it with the brakes, basically. So
yeah, Yeah, with the GR Corolla, you're definitely steering it more with the brakes to get that mid-corner rotation. You might do a little lift or just tap the brakes a little bit, but this is more natural. This is the most natural feeling of all the cars, I think. It's sort of the most pure, I think, in some senses. And yeah, there's just so much rewards. And I really like this gearbox too.
Yep. and don't forget, there's not just what the car's doing, there's how much it's telling you that it's doing.
Right.
You know, it's the communication between driver and vehicle. And
Like,
this
right.
car's really communicative, so you're very aware when you're using the various control inputs to make it do various things. There's no mistaking it. You know what's going on.
Yeah, like right there in that last corner, I had a bit of understeer, and I can kind of feel the grain of the road.
Yep.
I can feel the tires kind of working, trying to, scrabble for grip and kind of do their thing to find that little bit of grip.
Yep.
But right, I mean, look at that. It's just fun.
It is. It is. And of course, you've got so much experience in this car. You know, you've driven this thing on the track like probably more than anyone else at this event, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I've got 49 track days on my on my current one, so
Yeah.
But that rotation that we got back there, pretty easy to catch.
Absolutely.
Pretty easy to catch, and I knew it was going to rotate. I could feel it was going to happen, so
Right.
there was no drama. There was no like, oh shit kind
Right.
of thing. With the Supra, it's like,
Yeah.
you need to be on top of your game with the Supra. You need to be very, very aware of what's going on, because it will rotate under any circumstances.
Yeah, if you're
essentially.
starting to wonder if the car is going to be, needs to be caught, it might be too late, you know?
Right.
Don't be thinking maybe the car needs to be caught. If that's what's going on, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming along for this hottish lap, two hottish laps, with me. I'm gonna pull up right here. And so we're gonna continue the video. We're gonna explore the other cars a little bit more in depth, and then gonna come to some kind of conclusion, because that's what YouTube is about. It's about making hard conclusions and decisions.
That's what we try to do.
We are in the Supra manual, and I just looked at the MPG indicator, and it's getting 8.2 miles per gallon. So B58, this car has the most power by far. This has the most torque by far. This is the most car by far of all three. Let's see how this thing is to drive on track. Heading out in the Supra. Oh. Blew that first shift, but that's okay. So much power, so much torque. But this is a lot of car. This is a lot of car for a lot of people. And this is a car that it wants to do things. It's very playful. It is very playful. And by that, I mean, it will rotate. The back end likes to come around. So when you're going into your braking zones, you kind of want to make sure that the car is pointed in the direction that you want, because under braking, the car will rotate. Now we've got the stability system turned on here in track mode. Man, a lot of power. Really good brakes. Coming up off this hill, you can get on the power and just do that. But it's a car that requires the most concentration and is the least friendly for beginners, because you can get into trouble really quickly with this car because it carries so much speed because of this incredible B58 engine. Oh, so good, so good. But you gotta feather the gas coming out of the corners. This is not a car that, if you're ham-fisted, it's gonna treat you well. In fact, it's gonna bite you back. Now this car also has, I think, the worst steering of the three. There's just not as much communication as the other two cars have. And so that's a little bit of a downside. Man, those brakes are good. But yeah, this is a car that rewards good driving, skilled driving. You're definitely gonna get the quickest lap times out of this car. There's no question out of that, but it's also the most difficult to extract those lap times. And it's a car that kind of rewards having a bit of experience. So yeah, this is a car that you can get into trouble the quickest of all three of them, I think. And if you want that, that's cool. It's definitely very powerful. It's really nice. I like what the Toyota has done with this car. The default mode is understeer, but man, oversteer is just a little bit of throttle away. So yeah, it's a cool car. Unfortunately, it's ending the current run for 2025. This is going to be the last year of the Supra, which makes me a little bit sad. And if you want an incredible inline six, probably the best inline six made right now, maybe ever, controversial statement, this is really, really, really good. It's got such an engaging car. And listen to that engine, the torque is all right there. And it's a car that's lively, it's ready to go, but it is not as well balanced as the two other cars. So let's go back and let's have a little conversation to figure out which one is going to be the best car for a new performance driver. First off, a massive thanks to Toyota for putting on this event. I think it's really a rare occasion that you get a manufacturer that does three pretty inexpensive, pretty light sports cars and brings them together at a track so that people like me can go and experience them. Thank you so much. And also a huge thank you to my co-pilot, Karl Brauer. I'm going to link his channel down below. Now, which one of these cars is the best for a beginner? So we're going to start off with the GR Corolla, which definitely is the easiest to access all the performance it can give you. And that is primarily because of its chassis and its all-wheel drive. The dynamics of the car make it really, really difficult to spin it, even if you do something really dumb like lift off the throttle in the middle of a corner. It is the car that is going to rotate the most in the middle of a corner with throttle lift off, but you're unlikely to spin it. And just because of that reason alone, and because it has big brakes, it's pretty easy to use all the available grip and sort of get comfortable with driving at the track. And I realize it is the second most expensive car in this test. Now the next car up in terms of ease to drive and access to the performance is going to be the GR86. Yes, it has a little bit less power, but in the real world of a track or going to a canyon, it has plenty of power in my opinion. And it does have a fair bit of torque, and it is naturally aspirated. So it has the most linear powertrain, and also it is the most balanced of the three cars. You can have it go into understeer, you can have it go into oversteer, and it's pretty easy to control the car with either the throttle or the steering wheel. And it's really a car that has a lot of rewards to it because it is so neutral. And it's also the car that you can build upon and get more performance out of it as you grow as a driver. And that leaves the GR Supra as the third car, and it is by far the fastest car, and it has by far the most power. It is a big step up in terms of the amount of car that you get, and a lot of that is because of the power. Now the handling is a little bit more tricky for a novice. It is a car that if you really want to go quickly around the track, you are basically in some type of rotated oversteer mode pretty much the whole time. You're always sort of dancing the car around the nose, and it's a car that likes to get loose pretty quickly. So it's a car that you need to be on top of to get the maximum performance out of it. Yes, it is very rewarding, but it is not the easiest to get to be able to use that performance without a lot of experience. But man, that B58 motor, it is so good. So I just bought this. I'll be doing a video on this soon, and I'll also be doing some videos on my GR86 in terms of track stuff. I'm going to be taking this channel a little bit more in a performance direction. My name is Eric. Subscribe if you're new. See you in the next one.